Good evening. Hello, welcome. That was a lovely meditation, don't you think? Are you quiet inside? Or has it created a disturbance the moment the meditation finished? It happens like that, doesn't it? I just want to check on Zoom. Is the sound okay?
That's lovely, Neeta. Lovely to see Lakshmi here.
Thanks.
Om Shanti.
Good. So the sound is good. Wonderful.
Okay.
Om Shanti.
Okay. So this evening we talking about breaking the cycle and specifically transforming negative patterns. Have you ever had the experience where you hear a song, just maybe even a few lines of the song? You're passing by a shop or in the mall or maybe on the radio, and then you find in the course of the day that song is playing in your mind, even if you don't want it to, or you try to put another song in, but it's like this song that's playing in your mind. Experience that? Yes, I think we all have. And if it's a good song, you don't mind. But if it's a song that's not so great, then you want to try and push it out. And so if we're talking about breaking negative patterns, so it's useful to understand what a pattern is and how is it that it's created. So if we think of, if you got a field, just like a wild field, and if people keep walking on the same area a few times, what's going to happen? It creates a path, right? We've done this, and they usually say stay on the path, because you might veer off and end up somewhere you don't want to go. So sometimes staying on the path is good, but sometimes it's good to veer off and find your own path. Both are important, but it's able to realize and recognize and understand when is it good to stay on and when is it that I need to steer my own way, find my own way. But patterns are created in a simplistic way, in that way, where when there's a repeated aspect of thinking, of feeling, of acting, when I repeat something continuously over a period of time, then it becomes a certain pattern. So think about, again, those record players. Do you remember? LPs? LPs, I think. Maybe some online don't know about it if you're younger, giving my age away. But the LP, those records, and so you had this needle, and the LP has grooves, right? And according to where the needle goes, then that whatever is in that groove gets played, something like that. Because the recording is there. It's not that it comes from nowhere, but there's something there. And it's like when the needle makes contact with that LP, then it emerges. So in a similar way, we create patterns because of a repetitive thinking, acting, feeling, experiencing, whatever it is. And sometimes it's a combination of all of these. And then there's something that makes contact with it. In other words, we'll call it, there's a trigger that then causes this thing to emerge. I'm sure you've all been to Home Affairs, get your passport, driver's license. And let's say now your passport is expiring and you need to go and get it renewed. What's the kind of thoughts that come in your mind when you have to do this? You can be honest, it's safe space, no one's gonna. Irritation, yes. And frustration, and then the fear, oh God, I have to do this.
Put a bomb.
I'm sorry?
Put a bomb.
Put a bomb. Put a bomb underneath the people to make them work faster. Not pleasant thoughts, right? So look what happens. So what's triggered? There's something in you that creates these thoughts and feelings. So what would it be, you think?
Patience.
No, what triggers it? What makes you think like this or feel like this? Past experiences, isn't it? And then also other people's experience. And then everyone like rallies together and then we convince ourselves this is it because of collective, you know? And so it's beginning to see how these internal patterns are created, but then how I keep sustaining them through when it's triggered, what am I doing with it? And so we need to also keep in mind that patterns can be good. Like I was saying, you're on the right track, which is like a good pattern. And then you've got some that are not so good, negative. So if we think of good habits, if you want to think of it, patterns as habits also. So how's a habit created? Doing the same thing over and over again. So we can use the word habit. So we all have good habits and we have not so good habits. I'm not going to say bad habits, not so good habits, not so healthy habits. And sometimes no matter how much we try and stop doing a certain thing that might not be healthy for us, it's not always easy, isn't it? It's like tricky. We have the good intention and thought, from today, I'm going to stop eating sugar. And if you can, great, wonderful, you have a strong mind, strong willpower, determination. But for many of us, there's certain things that we struggle with overcoming. And one of the reasons that happens is because they deep habits, deep rooted. They're not just on the surface, but it goes so deep based on something that's been triggered on a deeper level. But the beautiful thing about it is that if I've created something, I also have the power to transform it, to change it, destroy it if I need to. And the way I destroy it is by transforming it. So when we begin to understand that these habits or these patterns are mostly subconscious, think of a computer. You've got all your programs. You're not using all your programs at the same time, but they're running in the background, right? And they do take up energy and power. So it's slowly eating away. And so in the same way, we've got like programs running all the time. And when something is triggered, it's like it comes to the forefront. So when the person operating the computer calls up a file, calls up a program, it comes up. That's consciously done, but sometimes for us, it's not so conscious. Like I said, a song comes into your mind and it keeps playing. And maybe it's because when I hear that song, it reminds me of my childhood, you know, or it reminds me of feelings that it generated, because maybe that song had a deeper meaning for me. Or maybe I had not a good experience with that song, maybe something unpleasant. Then what would the feelings come up from that? So something is triggered based on what's in the background in my subconscious mind and memory also. So all of these are at play simultaneously. So when we begin to understand how my habits impact my life, and I understand the pattern of how that is created, then I can begin to see that where's the disruption in that pattern that I need to bring about. Where do I need to break that cycle? Does that make sense? Where's the shift that's needed? And so when we think of what happens in our internal process, we create thoughts, right? We all create thoughts. The fact that you're sitting here means you have created a thought because you've thought of coming here. So we're constantly creating thoughts. Some are louder and some are quieter, but we're constantly creating thoughts. But when a thought is created, then usually it follows by an action. So I think, BKs are having a talk tonight. So that's the thought. I'm going to go. So a decision is made, and then you get into your car and you drive. And after that, if you do it over a period of time, every Thursday, BKs are having a talk, I'm going to the center. It becomes almost automatic, where and I don't know if you've ever had this experience as well. You go to, you drive somewhere every day. And then one day you have to go in a different direction, but you find your car going in the direction you always go to, and you think, I missed it. I shouldn't have come here. And sometimes that happens when you're distracted. Someone's talking to you, you're not paying attention. You just go into default setting, into default mode. But habits then come when I keep doing the same thing. And then what happens is that this becomes an imprint, a groove in my consciousness. There's a Hindi word that we use for this. It's called sanskara. Those who have done our meditation course will be familiar with this term. But sanskara is like a groove that's been created because of habitual tendencies. So it goes deeper than just a habit. And that's where what I was talking about, deep-rooted habits are. And these are what influences many of my choices, my decisions, how I live my life, what I experience. Much of it is influenced by this groove, this sanskara. And then based on that, that creates what we call my destiny. And so it's this idea that whatever I hold internally and whatever I put out comes back to me. And so this law of cause and effect. Following, making sense? Can you see that in your own mind how it happens? So it's understanding that whatever patterns I create, they become the record on my soul, on my consciousness. And so think about what are the patterns that I'm creating, consciously or unconsciously. I'm deepening them when I'm keep on doing something that I've always done. What's the definition of insanity? We all know it? Yes. Doing the same thing and expecting a different result. So I think we're all a little bit insane, isn't it? And if we think about it, just step back and think, yes, if I keep doing the same thing, how can I expect a different result? And then we try to break that by becoming very harsh sometime on ourselves. I shouldn't do that. I mustn't do that. Why did I do that again? And if you've tried that, you'll realize it's not sustaining. It will keep coming back. And so the method that we adopt to free ourselves from these patterns of behaviors that are not useful and supportive to us is important. If I have a nail that I need to knock, and I take a screwdriver to try and fix that nail in, I'll expend a lot of my energy, but it's not going to work, And so sometimes we do that because we don't have the right method. We feel we're doing a lot and we're working hard and we're trying. But because it's not the right method, it's never going to work. And sometimes we're so stuck and stubborn that we won't think, hey, can I try something different? Because we are creatures of habit. This worked before, it worked for that one, so I'm sure it will work for me as well. This is something common when you're not well and you got 10 people telling you 10 different remedies. And that's good. It's just care and love, and they have concern for you. But ultimately, you have to find out what works for you, what works for your body, because you're closest to your body. And so I have to figure out my own way. Yes, I can draw from others, but ultimately I need to figure out my own way. So let's take a moment and think for yourself, what one pattern do you find you repeating? It doesn't have to be an action, but maybe it's a thought that constantly keeps coming up, or a feeling that is quite regular in your body or in yourself. You feel something, or there's a certain belief or an attitude that you hold. Even if it's in a relationship with someone, you know. So think of one pattern that you often repeat, and then just see what triggers that, you know. For example, when someone is very rude, then it triggers anger in me, you know. And you could say that's normal and acceptable, but when we look at the nature of the soul, no, anger is not a good energy to have. Or I see something someone's doing that they shouldn't do, and then it generates some feelings for me. So something's being triggered. So think for yourself of a pattern that's often repeated, and if you can find what triggers it, then that will be a bonus. But if not, that's also fine. For now, just try and identify a pattern. Okay, so I'll give you a few minutes.
I can start.
Okay.
Sometimes what happens, maybe somebody's taking too long to say something. I tend to want to finish it for them. Or I
Okay.
tend to finish it.
Yeah, no, definitely. Quickly you identified it. So if someone's taking too long, then they want to try and finish it for them, the sentence or something. Yeah. Okay. So you can reflect quietly. If you want to share, great. But just think of a pattern for yourself. And if anyone wants to put it on the chat, you're most welcome to do so as well. So I see Shakila is saying, habit of everything to be perfect. Surrender and have a paradigm shift, therefore. Okay. Easy. There's so many, you don't know which one to choose sometimes. Okay, so good. Just, you know, understanding and recognizing certain triggers in myself, and that helps me to see. So usually when I react, there's something that's being triggered, and if you look back, you maybe see a pattern there, that every time this happens, I react in this way. Sometimes it's not an external reaction, but internally. It creates a feeling, a disturbance, some thoughts. In fact, that's more dominant than perhaps the external influence or impact of it. So where do old patterns come from? Where do these come from? It's things that we've accumulated from the time we quite little. You know, something happens to us and we remember it, and then it's repeated, we see it, we experience it. And so it becomes something that influences us today. I remember if you think back to your childhood, and there's been moments that were great, there were moments that might not have been so great. There might have been some trauma. And it was one of my meditation experiences. I was in India at our headquarters, and there was something that I felt was blocking in me, you know, and it was something I was trying to figure out for a little while. So it was something that was coming to the surface. And I remember when I was in India, I thought, no, I'd really like to get some clarity as to why this keeps on coming up for me and why I struggle with it. And for me, when I go into silence, then things automatically emerge, not instantly, but It's like silence brings forth things that I know intuitively. And so it was one of those times, because in India, when we go, there's just time for reflection for the self. So it's a very powerful space and opportunity. And so um, I was sitting in meditation with this thought of, it would be great to know. And then it's like someone just put the light bulb on and I could see. And it was amazing because I had a flashback of a scene when I was very little, and I experienced something not so pleasant. I experienced someone else, and it didn't leave a good impression. And it just made perfect sense to me why I behave in a certain way or why I hold back in a certain way. And it was so lovely because in that moment, because I could understand what the trigger was, whenever a situation that triggered that came, I could say, I know where you're coming from. I'm not going to engage with you with that same old way when I didn't know what it was. And so then began the process of transforming. I'm not going to say it's fully gone, but it began the journey of slowly transforming that, so that when it comes up now, when the trigger comes up, there isn't strong feelings about it. It's just like little ripple in my consciousness to say, I'm here, but it doesn't impact anymore. So sometimes this is what we have to do, is take time and spend time quietly. I'm not going to say it's going to come to you like those light bulb moments. It was just one of those rare opportunities that came to me, but you will get insight. You will get a sense of what's the story. It won't be details on anything, but intuitively you'll know where it might have come from. And so silence is an important process, especially things that we can't make sense of now. Some things you can see, for example, we were speaking about the Home Affairs Office or going to get that. You can factor, because I've had the experience, other people have had the experience. And so collective consciousness, collective experience. And this is also something that creates these patterns, the influence of the environment and collective consciousness. If 10 people say it's like this, we believe it's like that, and then we begin to feel what they're feeling also. You're in a gathering and someone starts talking about something and another one chimes in, and 3 or 4 people. And then you find yourself unconsciously sometimes, yeah, that was also my experience. It happened to me as well. And we do this because we want to feel part of the collective, so we're not isolated. And so sometimes we also internalize things from the outside that then creates patterns inside. And sometimes it might not even be my experience. It might not even be anything what I think about, but because we place so much importance on the outside, we allow it to come inside. So, the detached observer meditation that we listen to, I'm inside and the outside is outside. And it's important to create that kind of distinction. Otherwise, everything's going to come in and bombard me. And already there's so many things that comes, especially from social media. I was on a call earlier, Zoom call, and one of the ladies was just saying, I don't know about you, but it was a group of us. I don't know about you guys, but I'm just on too many WhatsApp groups. I think we all can relate to that, and just the whole thing of it consumes so much of time and energy. But it's the day and age, and sometimes we have to be, but we can be conscious of what we're taking in. I can read something, I can watch something. Am I taking it in? That's an important thing. So let's pause for a moment and have another reflection. whose influence, so not what influence, whose influence do I allow into my mind? Okay, you can do what as well, but try whose. And then what am I repeating that is not serving me? So whose influence or what influence do I allow into my mind? Okay. Was it too short time? But again, it's just about awareness, beginning to see what are the things that are influencing and sustaining certain patterns of behavior, of thinking, of reacting also on different levels. So it's understanding that what you see and hear plays an impact or influences you. So then it's what do I want to see and hear that can influence me positively. And that's where the whole aspect of choice comes in. Sometimes we can say, I don't have a choice. I have to be on all these WhatsApp groups. True, that might be true. But I have a choice as to how much of it I want to influence me. Yes. I need to know what's happening in the world, so I have to listen to the news, read the papers, whatever it is. True, it's important because we don't live in little silos. But do I read every single article? Do I engage with every little podcast or YouTube video that talks about it? Or can I just spend 5 minutes going, it's my choice, right? So when I begin to understand how things influence me, whether adversely or in a supportive way, I can then choose how I want to engage with those things. Because certain things we can't cut off from our lives, right? But we can create boundaries that can support us. And that's my power, my ability to decide for myself what's working for me. Even if 20,000 people are saying something different. I might have shared this story. I was at it was like a little, like a dialogue. There was a panel discussion many, many years ago now. This was pre-COVID, maybe about 8-10 years ago. And it was a conversation around the impact of social media, and it wasn't so rife as it is now, on people, you know, and how it affects us. And the facilitator, after a little while, he said, okay, how many of you are active on social media? So how many of you have Facebook? Everyone kind of raised their hands. How many of you Twitter? Few, this, that. So he went through all. And then he said, how many on WhatsApp? So I picked my hand up. That was the only one I picked my hand up. He looked at me and he said, how do you live? You know? And I looked at him and I said, very peacefully. And I'll remember that because he stopped for a moment and he said, that's true. We should be more like you, you know. It was a little light moment, but think about it. And we talk about this, you know, so many years ago, our lives were so different, and we talk about all of that. But it's not about, we can't go back, and it's not necessary to go back because there's good things now as well, you know. But it's about choice, and it's about exercising that choice. So when I recognize the pattern, awareness of what it is, and then I choose how I want to engage with that. That's the first step. And then the other thing is, I say we were talking about how you can't use, if you keep doing the same thing over and over again, you can't expect another result. It's this idea that instead of breaking the cycle to try and break the pattern, let me create a new cycle that can replace the old one. So it's about creating new paths by doing something supportive, beneficial, healthy for myself over a period of time consistently. Then that's where my triggers will then be. And the old automatically will not have any influence over me. And that's like a very gentle and compassionate way of trying to transform old into new. So I can't try to use the old things. So let me be a bit creative. And the fact that I can think means I am creative. Of a different way in which I can approach things. And so when there's awareness and I catch myself being triggered by a certain sanskara or memory, whatever it is, and I know, this is the way I would normally react, take a step back and say, how can I respond differently? What other thoughts can I create that can set the way for a new pathway? So it requires a little bit of introspection. And that's why I said silence is important. So silence isn't necessarily just sitting for long period of time. That's also good if you can do it. But it's also in my day, during interactions, in making decisions. Can I pause for a moment and take that space to recalibrate my internal compass? And then take the next step from there. So it's not this big, overwhelming thing, but can I incorporate this kind of pause moments that can then help me to see how I need to navigate in this moment. And so never to underestimate the power of our thoughts. But like I said, I have to be consistent and constant. That's the key. When you're learning to ride a bike or learning to drive or something you have to learn, you have to practice and do it consistently. If you did 2 days and then you leave it for 2 months and then you do it again, you will never get it, because you have to be consistent and constant. And so it's the same thing, whatever practice I choose, whatever awareness I want to hold, I have to keep it at the forefront of my mind constantly if I want it to be impactful. But you know what? We get bored so quickly and easily, isn't it? And so I think I've been trying this one practice for a whole week and nothing's happening. I'm going to try something else. And then we pick up something else and then we think, oh, this is another 4 or 5 days and I'm not seeing any results. So then we jump to something else. Stick to something even if you don't see the results. If you're not getting what you feel you want out of it, just give it time. Because understand, these sanskaras or these patterns have been created over years and years, subconsciously, unconsciously. And so they deep. So few days, few weeks is not going to cut it. So I need to be patient with myself, and I need to give myself that time to know that it takes a little while. But the way in which I can fast track that is, well, not fast tracking, but when there's conscious awareness and when I'm very resolute in why I'm doing what I want to, then that becomes the energy or the driving force that helps me to sustain that. You know, when you decide to do something for yourself, you'll find every single thing in the world will come to block you from doing that. You found that? You know, it's like you said, I'm going to do this, and life says, oh, really? Seriously? Let's see if you can do this. Which is lovely because it keeps me going. But those are the tests that I need to overcome. And it's just little tests to see how much have I moved forward? How much resilience do I have? How much determination? How serious am I about it? Not heavy serious, but how much do I really want to shift out of this? And that's what I need to keep reminding me of. When I'm clear about my intention and the why, then I can sustain it, because it's inevitable that the default setting will kick in. That habit will come and you'll have this battle inside, you know. But it's so much easier if I just give in. And it is easier to give in. But the impact of that is just going to be not so great on you, on your resolve, on your sense of value for yourself, in trust for yourself. All of these slowly become eroded. And so even if it's a small thing I choose to do, let me try it for a long period of time and see the impact. You know, when coming back to home affairs, I also used to feel that. And the once it was during COVID and I had to go and get my license renewed. And I thought, okay, let me plan. I'm going to spend the whole day there. So I took snacks, I took lunch, I had my earphones and I had music and I took a book and I took all of these. So internally, I went with this feeling, I'm going to enjoy myself. I know I have to wait, no problem. It's inevitable, but I'm going to enjoy myself. And the time went. It didn't take as long as I anticipated. I had some lovely conversations in my own world, and it all went very quickly. And I thought, this is such a pleasant experience, you know. And I'm sure other people would have been frustrated in that same situation, but it was a conscious choice that I made, that I'm not going to go with this energy because I have to do this, but let me be happy while doing it. So certain things I can prepare myself, you know, because it's shifting that thought pattern, it's shifting that attitude towards how I want to approach this. And again, whatever you hold, think, and feel, and you give that out, that's going to come back to you. And that's unseen. Because we can't see it, we don't believe in it. But the more you experiment with this thought and this idea, you'll see how life and the universe is very benevolent when you hold that energy of benevolence within yourself, for yourself. So you just try it and see if it works. And if it doesn't work, don't come looking for me. You try again, something will happen. I'm going to pause there. I see there's a few comments in the chat. But anyone here, any thoughts or comments before we go into the chat? Okay, so there's a question here. How can someone break a toxic habit even though they are in therapy, they keep repeating? So one thing to understand, I can only change myself. It's a bit hard, but I can only change myself. And so it doesn't mean that I just, oh, well, that's your story, because no, we compassionate beings, we hold love and care for all humanity, but beginning to understand that maybe the way I can help is try to support them through my good wishes and pure feelings. So, you know, the habits that we create is because there's a spiritual lack internally. And so, you know, they say, like kids, when they act out, they just want attention. Not all cases, but sometimes. And the attention is just so that they want to be loved, no? And so when I understand what's the need of a soul, of an individual, and I can support them on that subtle level, that's something that I can do. Because I'm not a therapist. I don't know the dynamics of things, but I can support in a quiet way. But again, you don't see the results, so you might think it's not working, but it does hold an impact, because as souls, we beings of energy that vibrate. Vibrations create an atmosphere. Like I think you experience when you come into our center. What do you feel? Yeah, you're just saying that now. You feel peaceful, you feel the energies. And because the space is constantly filled with a vibration of calm, of peace, of meditation, it's a practice that we do all the time. So that then infiltrates into the atmosphere and it does impact. So the impact of energy and vibrations, but that I also hold that ability to influence and impact, but in a quiet way. And so I can be a support in that way. But I also need to learn to detach, because otherwise I can't have good wishes and pure feelings and hold that highest vision for that person if I'm thinking a lot about it and if I'm emotionally influenced by that. So I have to become the detached observer in that moment, that I'm most effective and supportive when I'm stable and aligned to my truth and the highest energy that I can hold. Energy is very powerful, actually. You just won't get a thanks from the person to say you helped me so much, but something they will feel. There's another one. What happens if a person is an intuitive empath and you are trying to distance yourself therefrom? So I think it's similar to the first one, it's understanding how I'm influenced or how one is influenced, and then creating that detachment. Remember, I am not my emotions. I'm the creator of my emotions. And creating that space and distance, I, the soul, and I'm holding only these purest qualities. And that's what I connect with. And that becomes the dominant energy within my consciousness. So the other thing is just understanding we can't always fix things and fix people, but we can support them in our quiet ways. So this practice of detachment is so useful, and I think it's becoming more and more essential to hold that. So in the day, create moments of a different awareness. I'm sitting down and I'm looking through a window, but can I step back and say, okay, I'm looking through the windows of my eyes? And you'll see the world very differently. Try it even for 1 hour. I was going to say one day. 1 hour is doable. Every person that you interact with, hold this awareness. There's a little tiny point in that body. They are souls, and their original nature is peace, purity, power, light, love. And you engage with them with that consciousness. Or I'm just a soul radiating peace wherever I go. And I hold that. So these are the practices that help us to reconnect with what it is that we need. And then that becomes the basis of creating new patterns, new ways of being. But it takes practice. And practice makes perfect, they say, until one day it will be second nature and you don't have to think about it anymore. Because think of habits, we don't think about it anymore. It's happened. So just as we create not good habits, we can easily create good habits, but we must want to. Sometimes it's an inconvenience, so we don't want to. It's good, it's helpful, it's useful, but it's inconvenient. Remember the inconvenient truth? We won't go there though. But it's this idea of let me know that I have choice, that I have the ability to influence, and I can decide where I want my destiny to lead me. Okay. Anything else? So shall we end off with just a few minutes of meditation, just to bring it all to a close? Okay, so let's just take this moment to settle into our meditation seat. Take a deep breath in and gently breathe out and just let go and relax. I just step inside and become aware of myself as a being of light within this body. I, the soul, residing in the center of my forehead, like a sparkling radiant star. I sense the presence of my being within this body, and I just focus all my attention on the sparkling radiant being of light suspended in this body. And as I hold this at the forefront of my consciousness, any trace of the body, image of the body disappears, and I'm just pure consciousness. And in this moment, I feel the fullness of my being that holds only the highest qualities, virtues, powers. And as I connect with the essence of my being in this way, whether it's love, peace, power, joy, purity, whichever energy resonates with me most in this moment, I just stabilize in that awareness and feel this energy beginning to grow and expand within my consciousness. I become the embodiment of what I hold within my mind and consciousness. And so as you stabilize in this, feel the unlimitedness of your capacity and how this energy, as it spreads, fills my entire being, but also moves outwards, creating a powerful wave of vibration that touches all others. And when I am in my power in this way, I hold a deep resolve that anchors me, keeps me grounded and focused on what it is that I need to do. And so I just take this moment to acknowledge the beauty and power that I am. And that as I allow this to emerge in my day-to-day interactions and life, I can be that image that supports, through my own transformative process. And I have full faith and trust in this. So let me take moments in my day to come back to this awareness and allow it to guide my next steps. Om Shanti. So thank you for joining us and hope you have a lovely weekend, and try with one of your habits, just one, not 1 week, give it a few months and then you can see how it works. So thank you, have a lovely evening and good night.
Thank you.